Our featured guest tonight exploded onto the national stage with the success of the Netflix documentary, The Tiger King. The show played like a movie script, but it truly was reality. No one could have made this stuff up. No one could have made Joe up. Here to chat about the show, his imprisonment, court case, his upcoming projects, and events is none other than the Tiger King himself, Joe Exotic. Joe, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me.
Much of America has come to know you from the smash hit Netflix series, The Tiger King, but there are still some people out there who don't know much about you other than maybe the name and the connection to the Tiger King show. How did the show originally come about, and what parts of your life do you think kind of set everything up for that moment?
Well, David, first of all, I didn't film for Tiger King, so everything that was filmed was pretty much staged by the producers of Tiger King. Everything you saw of me was old archived footage of my TV reality show that I was filming for. And when they had me arrested, we got all the evidence now of them paying the witnesses, the government witnesses, during my trial, out of the witness room to keep the story going. So there's a lot of people out there that doesn't know the real Joe Exotic. And if it wasn't for my YouTube channel, there'd be a whole lot more people. But most people have taken the time to go actually learn about me and the truth behind this show. But I have never seen the show, so I can't really comment on exactly how it portrayed me. But I know one thing that it portrayed me as, and I was an animal abuser. And I have never been accused of animal abuse or animal cruelty by any law enforcement agency in this country. So that was all portrayed by the filmmakers.
And you spent years, I mean, like decades, working with exotic animals or rescues. And I mean, and regardless of the convictions or the public opinion on the matter, you spent years working with them. What made you want to work with animals to begin with?
Well, I grew up on a farm and a ranch. I was born in Kansas, grew up on a farm there till I was 13, and then I grew up the rest of it in the mountains of Wyoming. And, I had a pet antelope and a pet deer and pet porcupines and all of that. And that's, I've always had a love for animals. But in 1985 and 86, my brother and me bought an exotic pet store in Texas, and we had that until 97 when he got killed. And then that's when me and my mom and dad started the zoo in memory of my brother. And that's when I got into the big exotics. And I rescued over 2,000 tigers, and then I placed them in zoos all over the world. And I worked with the National Institute of Health and the scientists at Texas A&M University on blood diversity to try and save the genetics and the strong bloodlines of the tigers. And the animal rights people just couldn't stand it, so they concocted this whole story up, put me in prison, and neutered and spayed every one of my cats.
Mm. I know, I mean, lots of people will only know, Joe Exotic as the tiger guy from the Netflix show, and was arrested and charged, like you said, with the animal cruelty or something. And yet, I mean, you were a zookeeper and animal handler for years and years, and you've had some people who've worked closely with you, who still defend you to this day. I mean, what would you do differently as a zookeeper if you could rewind time? Is there anything you'd do differently?
If I could, first of all, I'm not in here for animal cruelty. I'm in here for taking 5 endangered species without a permit, because they're saying that I should have had a permit to euthanize them. Mm-hmm. But my USDA license and my protocols told me to euthanize them. So it's 2 government agencies that don't want to agree here, and I'm in prison for it. But John Rinke, the guy with no legs in Tiger King, is my strongest ally that has been with me this whole way. And if I could rewind time, I wouldn't even rewind it enough to get Carol Baskin out of my life. I would just rewind it back enough to get Jeff Lowe and James Garrison out of my life, because they're the ones who orchestrated this whole thing.
I know at some point you've said that given your time in prison, you now understand what it feels like to be in a cage and maybe can empathize with animals in captivity, even those in a comfy zoo. Tell us about that realization. Why do you feel that our society's current zoo concept needs to be reworked?
Well, as well as I took care of my animals and the best that I could provide them with the habitat to live in, man, especially my chimpanzees and my primates, because we as human beings relate to them more than anything. And after me sitting in here, especially 2.5 years of solitary confinement, I would never have an animal in a cage again. Even a hamster. As bored as a hamster gets and curls up and sleeps in the cage, I would never have a hamster in a cage ever again. And when I get out of here, I'm not going to advocate against animals being in captivity. I'm going to advocate and help raise money to rebuild and educate people that have private zoos and have animals that don't know how to take care of them and help better their animals' lives instead of just trying to take them away and put them in a sanctuary to do the exact same damn thing like they're doing mine. I was supposed to be so horrid for having animals in a cage, but everybody that has my animals now are charging to see them just like I did. So my animals are still not being properly cared for. They're being exploited, no different than I did. But did I learn? Have I learned that I should have provided a hell of a lot more for my apes and my primates as far as enrichment and a habitat and socialization? You bet your ass. I should have had my ass kicked.
This part of the conversation was making me think a little bit of Steve Erwin, because I remember Steve was kind of at one point kind of fighting to keep animals out of zoos and in the wild with his conservation efforts. And if I recall correctly, I think you might have actually had a conversation with him at some point, maybe regarding a croc or an alligator you were trying to save or something. How did that conversation come about? And what was your impression of Steve?
I actually got to know Mindy and Steve over the telephone for helping, because when I rescued a big alligator out of a pond in Oklahoma in the middle of the wintertime, he had a severe eye infection, and no vet knew how to treat a crocodile, an alligator, because it was a reptile. And so, just out of the blue, I thought, you know what? Let me pick up the phone and call the Australian Zoo and see if I can get, somebody to help me out. And then Steve jumped on the phone, and he got his veterinarians there on the phone, and gave me a rundown to tell my vet of what medicines were safe for an alligator and how to treat it. And I did, and we successfully did that. And then about 6 months later, 7 months later, we had a kangaroo throw her pouch, turn her pouch inside out. And no vet ever had seen a kangaroo turn their pouch inside out. So I picked up the phone again, and I got a hold of Mindy, and damn, without any questions, wanting to know anything, they got their vets on the phone and helped me with my kangaroos. So, over the telephone, we got to know each other and great colleagues, and may Steve rest in peace. That's what I would like to see, is more avocation to save animals in the wild and take care of them in the wild. And I've done that through my past, and I've never gotten credit for anything. I raised 70,000 African rams and hired rangers to protect white rhinos. I've raised money to help protect elephants. And, you never get credit for anything good. It's always the bad.